for the YouTube recording. Welcome everyone. This is the each 2022 members meeting in the fall, second half of the year. So I just shared the wrong thing here. Let me share a new document. Sorry about that. So a quick roadmap. Yeah, I want to share some results from our each annual survey that we produced earlier this year, and then use that to talk about theory of change and where we're going, and springboard to talk about some projects. So yeah, as you know, I started full-time earlier this year in January, and when I started, there was still a lot that each had already done long before I started full-time. But we wanted to know a few things. We wanted to know not just demographics of each, because we've already had really good surveying about what the each community looks like in terms of where people are located, what people are doing, how old people are, and so forth. But we had very little information about where Christian EAs were giving and what role each plays in effective giving. Also, we had very little information about the role in which each is playing in supporting effective careers, socially impactful careers. And then also little information about like the overall experience that people have from each. How do highly committed members rate each? Are we happy with how things are going? Are we not happy with how things are going? And so these are the primary objectives from this survey. And I was a bit late in writing this up and delivering it to you all. So I actually want to start there, because it's this survey that really started a lot of the thinking in the results from the survey. It started a lot of thinking that I've had lately about theory of change, about each's programs, including the ones that we're hoping to scale up and scale into. So you should have a link to this survey here. I want to just highlight a couple of key stats from this. So the first is that, the first is relating to the purpose of each. Coming into this survey, we weren't sure how much each was introducing people to effective altruism, or how much it was servicing people who already knew about effective altruism. Through this survey, we learned that each is doing a lot of work for Christians who are already familiar with EA. About 98% of Christians in this community who took this survey were already familiar with EA. Also, we learned the kind of things that EA or each offers that it's hard for Christians to substitute from other groups. Particularly, it's very difficult to substitute knowledge about the intersection between EA and Christianity. Also difficult to substitute are certain aspects of community and a lot of in-person meetups and a lot of the unique high-value community that we offer. So it seems like each has a niche in these two things, providing I guess satisfying curiosity about EA and Christianity, and also doing community building. But what about these other aspects in terms of how we're affecting careers, how we're affecting donations, how we're affecting, I guess, just people's overall well-being in the community and their experiences? Well, if you scroll down in the survey, you'll find that that respondents, when asked, have your career plans changed because of engagement with each? The majority of people said that no, each hasn't influenced their career plans. Although we did have a sizable minority, about I think 33% or so, who said that each did influence their career paths. And relative to all other orgs, each was most impactful for these people. For all but one, in comparison, 80,000 hours is more impactful for people overall. But second to that is each. So I put in some testimonials from people who've been influenced by each in their careers. I encourage you to read those over in your free time. Also, in terms of donations, in terms of effective giving, when we ask, has each impacted where you give or how much you give? Again, it's a similar answer. Most people said that each didn't directly impact this, although there was a sizable minority who said that it did. And the average amount that we can measure in terms of how much more people give because of each, it's a modest amount. It's a few $1,000s. in a few cases where people gave much more. That's much more difficult to measure. And then in terms of people's overall experience with each and how they would rate each, overall, we did like an NPS Net Promoter Score survey for this, and people gave each on average an 8.5 out of 10. So overall, a pretty good score, I think, but we definitely want to provide just a good experience for Christians in this community. And this is just a survey. I was late to getting to you guys, but again, I want to start here because ever since January, when we released the survey, I've been thinking a lot about like, what does this survey tell us about what each is about? And this survey has, I mean, it has certain great aspects and it has certain questionable aspects. It seems great that we are influencing people's careers, but some questionable things is that our sample size is quite small. Our community as a whole is still several dozen to hundreds of people. It's still quite small. There are questions about, what can each offer that ADK can't, or what can each offer for giving that GiveWell can't. Also, have we clearly delineated like a theory of change for how we go about impacting these things? So all these things have been mulling over in my head, and that led to the creation of just a theory of change chart. And I'm going to share a second document with this. Sorry, this is kind of like this is going to be a little bit like an Anglican church service, if any of you have been to one. There's going to be a lot of book shuffling here. I'm going to throw a few documents at you. So the second document that I'm sharing is just a copy of a theory of change that's been guiding my reasoning ever since the survey. And I want to outline this with you here now on the call. So what is each about? So we all know what effective altruism is. Effective altruism is using reason and evidence to do the most good and then to take action on that basis. And we know that this is an idea, but it's also a community of people all over the world who take this idea seriously. We know that each is the Christian sub-community within this broader global community of effective altruists. And it really is our goal to do the most good possible. How do we do that? I think there are three ways that we do that, three outcomes that we want. We want more people donating to effective charities. We want more people pursuing high impactful careers and projects. And we want just improved well-being for Christians in this community. We want to support your faith, and we want to just support your overall well-being. There's a few different ways that we achieve these outcomes. We want Christians to think that EA is really important for their lives. We want Christians to feel excited about EA. We want to resolve any cognitive dissonance there is about being Christian and being or using EA as a tool to do good better, and all sorts of things. And then I think under this ultimate goal, and then under these outcomes and intermediate outcomes that are supporting that, we have certain programs and activities that we're doing. And I want to not get into each and every single one of these because we can do that in the Q&A, but I want to provide maybe this overall context and structure for the rest of today's discussion. This is the theory of change I'm operating under. And if you want to scroll down in this document, you can see some of the target audiences that we have and KPIs, and also just lower level metrics of how we want to measure success in the future. There's also like a problem solving approach to each's theory of change, where we present two different kinds of problems that we're really trying to solve. One, which is Christians in the EA community are really at risk of value drift. And then two, Christian institutions and media in communities have just broadly not engaged with EA so much so far. So this is, again, sorry, a high level summary overview of this, of what each has been up to. And from this, I want to just springboard into just a couple of exciting developments that are happening with each. I want to just share about 10 extremely briefly. And if you were at the East Coast or West Coast retreat, then you heard about some of these. If you're going to the UK one, you might hear about these there. But I'll just briefly share some of these and then open it up for some questions about, maybe specific programs that we have, or specific aspects of our theory of change, or specific aspects of our current organization. So give me 1 second while I pull this up. So one new and exciting development in Isha's life is that a few, just about 2 months ago, we were registered as an official 501c3 charity in the US. So we'd filed a long time ago. I think we filed in January, actually. And Mike and I did a lot of work on this. Thank you, Mike, again, for your help with this. But we got the official letter back from the IRS that we can now accept donations. We can call ourselves 501c3, and yeah, this just makes so much easier for us administratively in the US. We were already a registered charity in the UK. We're still waiting to hear back on the gift aid scheme there, but what this means is that we are now officially a charity in both the US and the UK. Also, some updates with the book project. I know if you're on this call, you've probably heard that we're writing a book. You probably are familiar with this book that Dominic edited and co-published. You can get a free copy of it, by the way. But the current timeline for the book project that David and Dominic are writing, this new book, which is like a Christian doing good better, this will come out likely the end of next year. So in terms of the drafts, it's about 80–90% written so far. I looked through it. It looks really solid. We have the amber green light, Dominic says, from the publisher, and we're just firming up details there. But this is going to be a huge program that we really want to market and put a lot of resources in. And Dominic and David have just been working so hard at making this happen, and it's really coming together, which is very exciting. Some other new programs that we're excited about. So in terms of our research, Alex Ratty has been just foundational in getting our initial research agenda started. Thank you so much for that, Alex. Vesa has taken this over and has added to the research agenda, and we now have new categories for cause areas and how we as Christians should think about these, new categories for different aspects of morality and applied ethics, and many others. So thank you, Vesa, for continuing with this, and thank you, blog writers, for all of you who've been adding to this. We have a new trustee, actually 2 new trustees for our UK and US charities respectively. So Leah Labresco joined earlier this year on our board in the US entity. And then Waitera, she joined just about 2 months ago for our UK entity. Thank you, Mike, for just coordinating the board efforts to make this happen. But we're just really excited about the ways that Leah and Waitera are just going to add to our team with their unique respective knowledges in their fields and their just general wisdom. They're both super wise and a lot of fun to have around. We're excited about a new semester. This means new outreach. So what this means is outreach through all the normal outreach programs we've been doing, whether that's Just Love Talks or One for the World Talks, but also campus reps. We did 1 round of campus reps, which are like campus interns with each. And we had 6 campus reps in the spring, and that went very well. We have 5 for the fall, and I'm hoping that will go well too. So we're excited about this program. This should lead to a lot of good. We're working on a podcast, actually. So a bit about this in a second, but we think that a good way to do more outreach is by reaching new audiences on topics that are EA adjacent, even if we don't use like super explicit EA language. So in our Christians for Impact podcast, we want to talk with Christians about the world's most pressing problems and how you can impact them during and after university. So this is going to be like a Christian 80K style podcast, if you will. Asha and I, we already have about 6, or what is it? About like 5 episodes recorded, and we are hoping to launch this in January 2023. Sorry for the typo there. We always have new intro course cohorts going on. Asha organizes these, and they're really excellent. We've had about 50 people go through the intro course so far, including some of you on this call. And this just seems like a core program that we really want to continue. We also have just quite quite informally, we have next steps groups. If you're interested in this, very happy to connect you with people. This is a pretty low cost program that's pretty informally organized as well, but very happy to continue this. And then, as ever, we have our annual conference in the spring. That went well this spring. Happy to share feedback on that. We plan to do another conference next spring. I've been talking with some of you about doing what we've called in the past an Impact Professionals Conference. There's been some developments on that. Happy to share about that. But conferences seem like very high value in terms of supporting each's objectives. And then finally, we've had wonderful retreats this fall. So I think like most of the people on this call were at a retreat this fall. And we had one in San Francisco, 3 weeks ago. We had one in DC last weekend. Feedback was very good for both retreats. We had 9 out of 10 overall feedback. And I'm sure the UK one will be just as good. So thank you for joining these if you did. And these have been excellent so far. I do hope to continue these. So a lot of new programs, same old Jesus, and very excited about the ways God is supporting this ministry and others like it. So I mentioned all these different projects. I mean, this does sound like a lot. Like sometimes I'm thinking, wow, like each is really, it's trying to do a lot of things and trying to do them all well. And I think it's succeeding at doing well in what it attempts, because we have a really good team. We have really excellent volunteers. And I think we have a sound mission, and I want it to be even more streamlined with a clear theory of change. I want to double down on the programs we do well. And I also just want to scale up. I want each to get bigger so that we can support these really effective programs. And there's really good news that we can do that in the future. So I'm happy to announce that a few weeks ago we received a grant from, I can't say who yet. I haven't gotten their approval to mention their name, but we received a $135,000 grant that will help us to just improve and continue and scale up our current programs. This is in addition to the grant we got for doing these retreats from CEA events. And this is in addition to many just very faithful private donors we've had. So what does this mean for each? I think this means just continuing our current team and scaling up like very judiciously and responsibly. We're not going to see rapid changes overnight, but I do think this could mean having more teammates in the coming year. I do think this means not biting off so much more in terms of activities, but it does mean that we have the capacity to do all these things I mentioned quite well. So I think I've already mentioned a lot. I'd like to just, I guess, open us up for questions, and whether you have questions for me or questions for the staff team or questions for the board. I don't know how many people we have on this call, but certainly a lot from each different group on this call. If you could type your question in the chat, I can read it from there, or I guess Slido is best because it's anonymous, right? I can start a Slido chat, but I'll need a minute for that. So give me a minute to do that. Cool. So the Slido is up and that works. Feel free to use the Slido if you'd prefer. Also, if you'd like to just give a live question or a comment, feel free to do that as well.
So I asked a question in the chat, which is like, what do you see as like the biggest bottleneck to growth in EA for Christians right now? Is it like money and like donations, or is it volunteers? Is it staff? Is it just like ideas of what to do? Like, what is the one thing, we could provide you as, as a community that would help this grow better?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. I think right now the biggest, right now I would say the biggest bottleneck is talent, particularly talent in specific areas. Generalists are always helpful. And if you're a generalist and you're interested in supporting supporting each in a certain way, please reach out to me. The specific talent that I'm looking for most, and we'll be writing up some kind of ad for this soon, is someone who can help scale up the book marketing program. I'm very happy to invest a good chunk of the grant money we received recently into marketing the book effectively. And we saw the success that What We Are the Future had, and I have the Time article behind me. It's wonderful. If we could have just 1/10 of that success with Dominic and David's book, that would be huge. And I think that having someone with experience with PR, someone with experience with marketing books would be excellent. I'll be definitely reaching out to A.B. Rorig, who's in this community. If you have any ideas of other people I can reach out to for that, please let me know. But yeah, also in terms of just marketing podcasts, that'd be very helpful. I've been speaking with just informally with the marketer at ADK and with another Christian EA who has a decent podcast, Narratives. Will Jarvis is a good podcast there. But if you know somebody who can help us do this excellently on a more paid capacity, please reach out. Finally, we do have some content production roles. We recently actually hired on a contract basis Cian, who is doing graphics and visuals for each this fall, and she's been doing excellent work so far. So that kind of work in the future, I think it will just be more and more needed. So Alex Ratti asked, what's my biggest shareable regret for EA for Christians in the last year? I have a lot of, I'm not a perfect person. I do have regrets. I'm trying to think which one is biggest. So it's spinning in my head, but a couple I'm happy to share about. One thing that I'm trying to think at a level that's relevant for everybody here to hear. One thing I think we could have just done better about is communication overall, and having really timely communication about all of our events in a consistent way. So especially with events, right? So if we're going to advertise on Facebook or in the Slack or on our events table or in our newsletter, making sure that all of these channels are just consistently updated in a way that doesn't leave people wondering. I actually don't know how much of a confusion that has been for people, but my sense is that, there have been some attendance numbers that have suffered in part because of that. And that leads into another regret. I think maybe we've put we've maxed out our capacity in terms of running events and getting a critical mass for online formats. It's hard to see this as a regret, because I think we've learned this through experience, that, you know, now we can count on getting 10 people on a weekly call, but now we have so many events and so many different things we're doing. We can't get the same kind of attendance we were getting at some events like we did during the pandemic. Maybe in hindsight, we could have seen that. Maybe we could have been able to tell that times are changing. People aren't as interested in coming to online events. People are more interested in coming to in-person events. We should have scaled up. We should have done more retreats earlier in the year. I think we should have also had more in-person stuff in London. That's a big one. I've been letting that slide much too much by the wayside. So those are some events, some regrets that I've had from this year. Graydon asked, how can you be praying for each generally and for me personally? It's a great question. I think if you're praying for each, like, please pray for the org, but also please pray for the community, right? Because there's so many people connected in this community who are each doing so many important, wonderful things. And I see myself and our team as just one node in that network, right? But yeah, in terms of the each org, of course, all these things we're mentioning, please be praying for, but also just for team members who, you know, we all have, sorry, the questions are piling in. These are great. Thank you so much. But yeah, please like reach out to us individually if you'd like to pray for us. I know we'd be very open to that. And that would just be super encouraging if you just reached out and said, hey, how can I be praying for you specifically this week? That would be massive. You can pray for first of all, you can just thank God that Maddie and I, we've settled into DC really well and made friends in EADC, and also gotten plugged in at 2 local churches that we absolutely love. So yeah, thank God for that. But just pray for, just for opportunities to reach out to Christians who might be interested in EA. Pray for opportunities to reach out to EAs about Jesus and the hope we have in Jesus. So those are 2 ways you can pray for us. But really, just so much thanks. Like, just thank God for like how much He's blessed us. We really feel really blessed in this phase of life. Also, if you really like specific questions, I can give those questions more time of an answer. So if you give a thumbs up on the Slido, I'll know that people like that. Also, if there's a question that a specific staff member or board member wants to answer or interject about, like, please just unmute yourself, or just please put in the chat, I have thoughts on this, and I will, I'll mention that to you, or throw that question to you. So one question is, how much do you want to exclusively target the people listed under target audience, and how feasible is it to target them? So let me just pull up the target audience in the theory of change so that I have that in front of me. Yeah, so these are guidelines, right? So like we say here, target audience is Christians at university, Christian young professionals, Christians who are very active about giving, especially earning to give, influencers, right? We can all think of like exceptions to these audiences who make up the very people on this call, right? Who make up our very community. I think of these as like just focus areas, but not like, you know, not check boxes that have to be checked. But I do think this is the right target audience. I think we want Christians who are at university for 2 reasons. One, we're very interested in people who are open-minded and willing to change their career paths, willing to entertain new ideas. And university is a great place for that. One, because young people are less committed to a specific way of life. 2, because young people are just like temperamentally more high in openness, if you think of big 5 traits. But also, you know, university fellows, there's really a lot of potential, and a lot of potential for a strategic kingdom impact with people at university. So that seems like the right audience. Also, young professionals, same thing goes there. I think that's also where we have sort of an anchor right now. Like if you look at our network right now, the median age in each is like 26, 27 years old. It's, you know, if you've been to churches where everybody's 27 years old, it's really hard to get in people who are 50, 60, and vice versa. You know, if everyone's 50, 60, it's hard to get the 27-year-olds in the door. You know, I don't always compare each to a church, but I just think like when you're talking about social communities, you are kind of anchored with that. So yeah, in terms of feasibility of reaching people in this target audience, I think some of these are just easier to reach than others. Like I think when we're trying to reach out to influencers, this is much more of like a, you know, this is more of the kind of thing I want to do. And I've been reaching out to podcasters lately to talk about effective altruism with some success, but this seems to be more of like the high expected value play, even if it's much higher risk. And yeah, I have a lot of random thoughts about this, but I don't want to stray too far from the question. If you have specific thoughts about that, please put down another question. Please also keep upvoting these questions. These are really good. So one question is, how will each focus on discussing, questioning, and promoting long-termism? Great question. Thank you for this. Also very timely with Will MacAskill's book that came out. So I want to be clear, when I hear long-termism, I'm thinking of two kinds of long-termism: weak long-termism, which is the kind of long-termism that Will MacAskill starts out What We Owe the Future with, which is this idea that the long-term future is one of the greatest moral priorities of our time. And then there's strong long-termism, which is this idea that the long-term future is the moral priority of our time. And first, I just want to mention where each community is on this right now. I think generally the average person in each would agree with weak long-termism and would have qualms with strong long-termism. You definitely have examples of people who affirm strong long-termism and people who don't even like weak long-termism, right? That's just where I think the median person in each is right now. But I think even just that aside, I think there's also this important differentiation between long-termism and specific long-termist projects. So I'm thinking of cause areas like biosecurity or AI safety or preventing nuclear risk or things like that. So I think there are many people who would be for or against any of these particular causes, but might have like very nuanced philosophical stances. That being said, so each, I'm actually quite keen for each to engage with long-termism, and I'm very interested in that. I'm thinking though, as we do outreach, we want to scale down the emphasis on EA concepts that what's the word? We don't want to use buzzwords that only people in EA understand. I think long-termism is especially prone to this. I think many of us here who care about long-termism, we didn't start as EAs who cared about long-termism. We started as EAs who cared about particularly global poverty and global health. I think as we're reaching out to more Christians, the primary entry point is not going to be long-termism. It's going to be Christians who care about global health, global poverty. But yeah, for the most committed EAs, I think long-termist discussions have to happen. And I think it's such a core part of EA that it makes absolute sense. So I actually have more thoughts about like how each will focus on people who are at the, let's just say, very top of the funnel. And I have we've been working on even a second branding for each that wouldn't change our theory of change, wouldn't change our most core programs, but it would better reach out to Christians who never heard of long-termism or like don't think about impact with concepts like counterfactuals or ITN or expected value. So we have that. I think it's actually quite far along, the second branding. But that second branding, I think, is unlikely to feature long-termism. But I think EA for Christians, the core community, should continue and speak even more about long-termist issues. We have, let's say, another 10, 15 minutes or so. If you have to drop off, that's totally fine. I know we said this call would be till 4 Eastern time. So if you have to go, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate you taking the time. If you do have another 10 or 15 minutes, I'm happy to answer some of these questions. Also very happy for any other staff or board members if you would like to give your say, right? Like I'm just the director. Like if you want to give your say about how each should turn on these, please do. Feel free to put that in the chat, and I'll even take a second to read over these questions and give somebody else a chance to speak if they would like that.
Yeah, I could chip in a bit on the long-termism bit from the research perspective. So we are, the way I'm looking at it, thinking about the EA for Christians discussion blog and the research agenda, I think I am trying to get some content on long-termism in the, let's say, near to medium term, because it's a very timely topic and there seems to be like lots of things to explore from a Christian perspective. So hopefully we'll be publishing something on the blog during this fall, I would say, fall-winter period, and perhaps we might see something else developed around it, like from this like research perspective. But what exactly, that's still a bit unclear.
Thanks, Faiza. So there's one question here I like. As each grows, what is the strategy for accommodating a larger variance in level of EA knowledge? Right now, many in each seem to have a high level of knowledge. I agree. So I think this is true. I think this is actually, this actually makes it really difficult if you come to a Sunday call and you've never, like, you're new to each, right? And you're in this call with like 10 people who thought about EA ideas for a long time. It's a bit overwhelming. I think we need to, I think we really do need a second brand that can help people who are thinking about these ideas from a different context. So I'm actually going to share a draft of the second branding that we have right now. I'm going to share a link of this here. And I'm going to share my screen as well. So yeah, there's this issue where we want to reach out to Christians about effective altruism, about effective giving, high impact careers. And when we try to explain what effective altruism is, there's a lot of ideas associated with it. And these ideas are constantly changing and evolving. If any of us have tried to share this with family and friends, it's like quite difficult to do succinctly. One idea that we're as I mentioned, we're talking about is the second branding. And this is my current draft of a website for this right now. So we're thinking of branding the each community also as a community of Christians focused on solving the world's most pressing problems. And if you were to be introduced to this, you would see that you might ask, what are pressing problems? And you might see some language that's familiar to EA. And indeed, the focus would be essentially EA concepts or action points, and focusing on things that are large in scale, very solvable, very neglected. But it would be something that's much more approachable for an average Christian who's never heard about EA, compared to our current website, which assumes you know a lot about EA. So we'd also focus on certain pressing problems that are more like just in their name, familiar to Christians. So maybe things like environment, if we're going to talk about extreme risks from climate change, or we're going to talk about factory farming, We can talk about this from the perspective of environmental stewardship. A lot of Christians who are new to EA just expect to see something about church and evangelism there. And right now, we don't talk about this on our website. I think we need to have really well written up descriptions of a thoughtful Christian way to do this. And likely the podcast we were talking about. So we do want to do something like a Christian 80K style podcast. So we're very happy to produce something like this. It's going very well just by talking to a lot of really talented people, even in our current community, but also people outside our community. It's been a lot of fun doing these so far. But yeah, we think that the second branding is gonna help quite a bit with creating maybe two stages of the community, maybe like one, people who come in through the EA audience, and then the other people who come in through non-EA audience. And I think that will facilitate just more understanding. Daniel, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you so much. I think wonderful developments going on in there. This is not a very big push, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on this question. Currently, what are the developments or potential developments in EA reach in the global south? Are there currently plans for that? Because I think that's that could be very, very impactful.
Yeah, thanks for that. So it's a great question. So one Christian EA who I've been talking about this with, I've been talking to several about this actually. I've been talking to Waitera about this, who joined our board earlier this year. I've been talking with Elvis Cosmos, who co-founded EA Nairobi. Also been talking with Luke Oyer, who's in Nairobi, and we see this as like very important, a lot of potential here. I think I need to learn a lot more about how to encourage this growth. I think the EA movement as a whole has a lot more to learn about how to do this well. Right now, I just want to support Christians in the Global South who are interested in EA. And one way we're doing this is by continuing our campus rep program for Christians in the Global South. So Daniel, you'll be one of our campus reps. I just have to send you the official letter. There'll be about one or two others in the Global South who will be on that program as well. And I hope to learn a lot through that as well from you about how to do this best. So if you have particular ideas, please pitch them to me about how we can do more outreach in the Global South. We thought about doing an intro course. This was going well, and then the person we had to lead the course got a full-time job and couldn't do it anymore. But we're very happy to offer more.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. There's a question about the biggest risks, if any, of the work that each is doing and how each is mitigating these. So yeah, that's a good question. There's some risk that maybe. First of all, I don't think each is super risky in the sense of potential harms. So when I'm talking about risk here, my understanding is you mean the potential that something bad would happen, not like low percentage chance that something good would happen. One risk that was communicated to me was a risk that each could support Christians with very radical views that were polarizing within the EA movement. So let's just imagine a situation where somebody in each community who's on the staff team or maybe received some sort of rep grant from each that that they articulated just like very strong views, and they made a platform indeed about very strong views. It's something that like was maybe tangential to the EA movement, but polarizing within it. I think that would be a risk, but I think we can mitigate that by just focusing or majoring on the majors, if you will, and focusing on the key aspects of EA that we want to share with Christians, and maybe not these tangential, polarizing issues. Good. I'll try to give really, really quick answers to the rest of these. So in terms of plans to scale up mentorship within each community, this is a great question. So if you notice on the website I shared with the second branding for each, this Christians for Impact branding, there is a tab that is kind of like the ADK Get One-on-One Advice tab. In fact, that's literally the tab they have, but our program is going to be different. We're already doing this right now, de facto, in some sense. We're already, like, Christians are already talking to other Christians in our community about careers, about having an impact with those careers or with donations, or just in life and in various projects in life. I want to formalize that in a way that would make it appealing to Christians who are new to each, or Christians that hear about each, say through a pastor of their church. If you actually go to that page, you'll see that, like, right now we're tentatively planning to offer just one-off mentorship. And by this, we really just mean like a one-off call with a Christian in our community from our directory who's working on a project or in a career that that somebody is interested in working on. And my hope is that this will be much more shareable than what we have right now, and that this will bring many more people in our network. Because right now, like, the bottleneck with regards to mentorship is not mentors. We have so many really talented Christians, committed Christians doing wonderful things in this world in our directory. Right now, the way that people are reaching out to them is either braving a message just uninvited by finding our directory. More often, if somebody enters each through our Facebook, they get a message from Asha or I, and then we share that directory and we say, you know, these are some people we think we should talk to. Let us know if you'd like to talk with one of them. And then they respond, they say, yes, I'd like to talk to this person, that person. And then we do an introductory email. And then that results in a really good conversation. We've had dozens of connections this way, either through this channel or through the conference. We just want a way that we can produce this experience for more Christians who are even newer to each than, say, a conference attendee or somebody who joins our Facebook group. There's a question here about how each is thinking about the way we should engage with EA non-Christians. Is there something here to be said about advocating for our values, highlighting progress within EA? Yeah, so I think I don't know if I fully understand the question, but I definitely think we should stick to our values. Like, we should not just blindly follow what the broader EA movement says. That being said, I think our values are broadly aligned, and we talk about being Christians first and using EA as a tool to better love and serve others. So I think we are actually distinct in ways from the broader EA movement, and I think these are also good. Like, one way that people tell me we're distinct is that we have just a very warm culture. People come to our events, people come to our online or in-person events, and they say, like, wow, I'm greeted in a way that makes me feel really valued and noticed, and not as like a means to an end. And I don't want to say that, like, that's my impression of the broader EA movement, but I'm just told by people who come to our events that they do feel like we're warm, and that like there is this certain this certain maybe Christian respect that's communicated. And yeah, I think a lot of this, like this warmth, and a lot of the wonderful aspects of like just being brothers and sisters in Christ, like we should just embrace those. Brotherly love, absolutely, Daniel. And I think, yeah, in terms of like abstract values that we maybe have differently, like whether that's values about, you know, exactly how much we weight one cause area over another, you know, I think that's absolutely okay too. And EA wants diversification in that, as long as we're not like singularly pushing polarizing issues. I think we should be totally comfortable with advocating for our values, and highlighting, yeah, what makes us distinct. Cool. I'm going to try to wrap up the call in like just 2 or 3 minutes, but I'll try to do like blitz answers for some of these. So in terms of in-person versus online, yeah, I think our online events are mostly maxed out. I mean, we're getting about 20 individual people on online calls every week. I think that's about the most we can do right now. Maybe that'll change with the second branding if we get a lot more people in through a new audience. I want to do more in-person stuff. Like I mentioned, I think we should have done more in-person stuff sooner. And the retreats have been a great experience, according to feedback. So yeah, just more in-person stuff. In terms of like the value of an online event versus an in-person event, that's a really complicated question. I don't want to get in the weeds. But yeah, in terms of how each differs from other faith groups in EA, like EA for Jews, does EA see any opportunities for collaboration or idea sharing? There's actually been a lot of this, so I don't talk about this too much, but it's often just true I don't get the chance to talk about this. So I was actually over at Ben's house, who is one of the trustees for EA for Jews. Maddie and I had dinner with him last Friday, 2 days ago. So like we're very well, we're on very good terms. And also Kaleem and Ahmad from EA for Muslims, we're working with them too. So EA for Jews actually just produced an intro fellowship that that they've in part designed based off the EA for Christians intro fellowship. Yeah, so yeah, we want that to continue happening. I actually just got from Ben a list of Old Testament scriptures that really like are foundational scriptures for thinking about helping others and saving lives. And I want to share some of these on a call coming up soon, because they're just really fantastic. And like we share that element of scripture. A lot of these Old Testament scriptures we share. So yeah, any impact data surveys, results from the conference, whether people stayed engaged. It seems there were more intro EA people there. Yeah, so I actually didn't get too many people responding to the survey for the conference. I think 18 people answered. Feedback was generally good. I think it was around 8.5 out of 10 or so. Yeah, in terms of whether people stayed engaged, yeah, I think there was. I'd have to check. I don't have a quick answer to that. I think in-person conferences just going forward make a lot more sense for creating impressions that stick with people. So yeah, and then yeah, these are just wonderful questions. So thank you so much for these. And if you have questions about specific each programs, please let me know. I have like a lot of different calls to action, but I don't want to like overwhelm the people on this call. Some specific calls to action would be if you are in the US and you would like to support each's work. I mentioned we're not funding constrained, but we are talent constrained. Please reach out to me if you are generalist, and then keep an eye out for any like specific specialist jobs that we put out there. Also, like I mentioned, we're not like we're not funding constrained with regards to big donations over the next 6 to 12 months, but we do need to demonstrate that we are a community with grassroots, broad-based support. We're not just beholden to a few grant makers. So it's actually extremely valuable if you can donate just $5 a month. So if you're interested in like committing to donating $5 a month on an ongoing basis, please DM me, and we actually have the link on the website. If not today, then like tomorrow it'll be on there. So yeah, please do that. If you're in the UK, there'll be a London meetup in a week or two, actually. So there'll be the retreat, but some people are getting together for some board games soon. And if you can help like actually make some more in-person stuff happen in London, even on a pretty voluntary basis, like that would be super valuable, because Asha, who does our UK organizing, she's in Poland in the summer, but yeah, during term, she can do things on a monthly basis, but the more spontaneous stuff is a bit tricky. So if you're interested in helping with that, please do reach out to Asha or I. But yeah, also please just continue praying for us and for the each community at large. Yeah, sorry if this is all it's a lot of info, but yeah, thanks so much for just everything you do to support each. So hands off to all of you for being here, and yeah, thank you so much.